The 2009 Young Maritime Workers Conference is probably 8 months in the planning, but there's a lot of work that gets done behind the scenes. And coming into just before we got to Brisbane, there was a lot of people that helped us out and setting up the day before.
The first World Youth Conference was held in Prague in Czechoslovakia in 1947, and they've run right through the late 40s, the 50s, the 60s. So there was 3 in the 50s, there was I think a half a dozen in the 60s, there was some in the 70s, the 80s and 90s, right up until now. And you might say, well, if all started in 1947, why do we have to start now thinking about a constitution and some rules and what we do now? And it's because the world's changed, and it's changing more quickly every decade. Youth is the well from which we draw. Our union draws its advocates, its activists, its delegates and its leaders. And if you look around you see many leaders here. Mick Doleman, now the Deputy National Secretary of the Union, was over in Cuba with Laurie Horgan, with Terry O'Shane and many other that have become good activists.
You've got to go out there and be the activists from the youth perspective and from the union's program. You've got to demonstrate as a role model a position of strength and a position of leadership. You've inherited the union. You're the custodians of it. I'm 54. I don't know how long I'll go. Old comrades up the back have retired. And I'm going to go one day. And I'm absolutely confident. The young members I see around the place, I have responsibility for Patrick's. I see them down at Patrick's, young men and women down there, and the way they apply themselves, and many, many other places. I really think we're in great hands.
Our delegates came from every sector of the industry. We had the offshore, blue water, Spirit of Tasmania, ferries, of course wharfies, and just about everybody that's in our industry. So,
I'm a stevedore, drive a straddle most of the time. I'm a Kiwi, and I'm also a delegate down there for the casual employees.
I've been around the union for a long time now. Since I was a boy, I've supported my family and friends within the union, and basically I'm in the union. I believe in workers' rights, human rights, and I believe that the conditions I have at work are because of veterans and blokes like Mick and everyone else here today. So
I was fortunate enough to grow up in a left-wing household, you know, Labor family. So I've been educated all the way through, and I understand how the principles that the union apply, not just to work but to life in general, are really beneficial, and it's something that I'd like to give a little bit back to.
The reason I'm in the union is because it's the same reason we're all here, because it's on the job. If there's no solidarity and there's no one sticking together, the companies will just tread all over you.
Other reasons I'm in the union is to fight for the rights of the worker. It's been passed down to us from generation to generation, from the workforce, from the older generation, from the older comrades who have fought for what we have today.
Basically got put under a lot of pressure at work to start with to do untoward things, and didn't think it was right, so started to speak up and put my name forward for roles to make it a better place for my workmates.
The reason I joined the union is because I grew up in a family. Mum was a nurse, Dad was a fitter and turner. They were unionised. He was in the mines for a while. It was just what I saw.
If we all do our little bit, just anything, any spare time we've got in our own time on leave, that's what helps. You know, that's what we all got to do. Just chip in, do our little bit, and our industry will move forward. We'll be strong. We'll stick together.
Like Cara said, I think if you all put in just that one little bit, whether it be at work or anywhere else, it all leads to where we want to go.
We're trying to install from the beginning what's right and what's wrong on the waterfront, and in that we can use those opportunities when we've got new guys coming in of how we do things and how they should be done.
Someone said, you want to get into this offshore work. I'd worked previously in fishing, pearling industries, 6 or 7 years, and just going to see it was a lifestyle, but I had this great opportunity to move into oil and gas. Knew nothing about the unions or why you would want to be in it or why you should be in it. And I think the federal elections are on. Started going to some of the meetings and they'll sort of say, you know, vote Labor, guys, vote Labor. I'd be surprised if anyone in this room would be voting Liberal. And I sort of thinking, well, shit, I'd vote Liberal. My parents were farmers and just, you know, hadn't voted before ever, but I thought, well, I'd vote Liberal. So I started listening a bit more what they had to say, and kind of got to the definition of the difference between Liberal and Labor was just trying to bring up the sort of bottom bar for like 80% of the people and just taking that little bit off that bunch up the top. So started, you know, I guess, understand some of the principles, what unionism is and what we can achieve, and yeah, became a part of what's, I guess, a very privileged and strong union that we've got. So yeah, talking to some of the old guys on the ships and one of them explained to me basically the job isn't my job, someone else fought for it for me. I'm just there to look after it, so if I can return it in as good or better condition, I've done my responsibility to the union and I've done a good thing. So yeah, here to take up the fight and hopefully keep it going a bit stronger and a bit better.
Well, the role of the National Office in supporting the young maritime workers in the 2009 conference was particularly focused on taking that movement, the young maritime workers, forward for the next 12 months. We split up into workshops.
Told, and then you find yourself in the same position again. You've already got a bit of knowledge on how it was been told before, so you can adapt it to what's
you're not
what's
walking
on
blindly
hand.
as
Yeah,
much as
instead of
you've got
walking in
a little
blind,
bit of
starting from
focus
scratch.
on where to start and how to start.
Yeah.
If you want to make a difference in your workplace, you can't really go in there thinking you're going to make a difference if you don't know the history, if you don't know what you're talking
That's right,
about.
exactly.
The youth conference isn't about us telling young people what their issues are and what they need to do. It's an invaluable resource to find out what young people are thinking within the union, what their issues are.
Talking to the guys individually and, you know, trying to do the right thing and get it across to them, and mate, they don't realise that it's a privilege to be a part of it.
Some people don't have an understanding of what it means to be in the union. They haven't had that culture around them. So we've got to see it as that. Some people, it's a foreign idea. So what do we need to do to get them to understand our way of thinking? Do we have to come up with new ideas? What are those new ideas, but what's going to bring us all to a meeting? What's going to get us active, not only in our unions, but in our communities?
You know, and if you want to move people, you've got to identify the issues. And all the issues might be different, you know, and in your workplace there'll be different issues. There'll be different issues in your workplace, you know. And the key for us, and to getting people involved, is to develop the plan, right? Have a plan and develop it around the issues. Because when people are angry about an issue, they can be focused into activity.
Where are the youth in what particular area? We know now that 25% are under 35. So where are those within your particular branch? Where do they work? That's what you need to map. You need to go back with the assistance of your branch, find out where these people are, and then go and make contact with them in the initial phase. Everything else will get developed on the basis of what you do at this conference. What do you want to see come out of it? Where do you want to be in 3 months' time, 6 months' time, 12 months' time?
I found that the activism of the youth in this union is by far, or in my view, exceeds by far probably the density of any other union in the country. It's really pleasing.
You know, you ask someone what a union is and they generally point to a delegate or an organiser and go, oh, that's the union. You know, not realising that we are the union that's sitting here. We all stand for the same thing. Addressing the fear of being targeted when you stand up for something, and you know, am I going to get targeted for this? Am I going to risk my position? Am I going to fail the promotion because of this?
Just go back to our each respective individual workplaces and basically encourage young people to get involved with their union, and that just comes through education. Education's a big one that we're talking about.
And giving back to the union, this was something that I think it's all about what can I get, what can I get? We need to sort of get some things in place where what can we give back? It's not all about, you know, maybe society's gone that way a little bit with young people, but we need to work out how about what I can do, you know, and Mick touched on it, and I think that's a big thing that we can all go back and maybe start the discussion.
We've seen a big movement the last 3 years since we started these conferences. Yeah, we started with basically the bare minimum of youth participation. Now we have a full National Youth Committee with members for every sector, from wharf seafaring to women to Indigenous and all those areas. We're now expanding that further from this conference. It's been excellent.
we're trying to put the message across very clearly that our struggles locally are linked with the struggles of workers internationally. And quite clearly with the number of guests that were at the conference internationally gave a very strong message that there was a seamless link between the struggles of workers in all countries.
We were sent for an international delegation to Cork for an ITF conference for the global network terminals. While we were there was an ongoing dispute. It's still current today in Dublin, and we made sure that we travelled up to Dublin for those workers to show our international support for them, and also gather the information from the picket to bring back home to Australia so we can get out to our membership, because it deserves that global approach.
Have a look at the real picture about why things like international solidarity are fundamentally important. First of all, it's a two-way street. You don't just give international solidarity, we receive it as well. But I tell you, if we're getting the shit kicked out of us somewhere around the joint, it'll be the Dublin dockers that have got their hand up and coming to our support and aiding us and standing by us.
I work for the Spirit of Tasmania. I've been with the company for 12 years. I was just fortunate enough to go with 20 other people to Ireland, to Cork. Being over there and actually going to the picket line as well, the amount of thanks and well wishes and good wishes from the people there that are doing it hard on that picket line. I got their updates regularly through Facebook. I joined up to their website and got their updates regularly. And the families and the women that we met there were so thankful, and it brought me to tears reading, and I was at home reading some of the things that they had to say about us. And for me, being my first time out of Australia also, and only being new, getting involved in the last 12 months with things, it was awesome, it was fantastic. You know, and it's something I want to keep doing, and I want to keep giving back, because it's now my turn to give back.
Having the opportunity to go and see Cuba, and what it really represented was a tremendous experience, a wonderful experience. I didn't know what to expect. I did read a lot about Cuba, and I was a bit worried, because I'm a committed socialist, and I thought, you know, what happens if I go over there and it's not working? What's that going to do to my views? But it was inspirational. It was wonderful. And we were there for two reasons. One was first to go to May Day. It was the 50th anniversary of the revolution. And the second was it was the 70th anniversary of the CTC.
Because this is very important for us, especially this year. No, because of the 50 years of the triumph of the revolution, 70 years of the foundation of the CTC, and May Day, because we are an example for the countries around the world. Only, maybe not only, but in Cuba, this is a big demonstration every May Day, and we receive many foreign delegates to attend May Day activities. For them it is very interesting to know in which way we are celebrating and how we are living. It is very important to know, because the propaganda abroad, it is saying so many lies about the Cuban life, about the Cuban people, and it is very important to come to Cuba to see by yourself what is happening here, okay? To see the truth of the Cuban revolution, of the Cuban people, how we are living, how we are working, and everything.
In reporting back to the youth conference this year, and not only, it won't just stay at the youth conference, it's something that is very embracing as a representative. The moment I got the phone call, I had to sit down and think about it for a good day or so, because it was a very, very proud moment to be representing the youth of our union. Our union is a very strong union. This trip has brought home to me what solidarity, international solidarity is about. Visiting the international meeting of solidarity, the conference, really sent the message home that these people, doesn't matter where you come from in the world, we all have the same message to take home.
I would just like to thank
all those participating here, and for the support we have received, particularly from our brothers in Japan, from the MUA in Australia, and throughout Central and Latin America. We will work actively in our union and throughout our delegation to free the Cuban Five. This is a commitment we make to this delegation here today. We will fight actively to stop the injustices against the Cuban people that have been perpetrated by our government. We will work actively to end the blockade in the United States. And finally, the Cuban people have much more to export than just their doctors and the revolution. You now have an opportunity to export sustainability, the ability of people to survive during crisis, which has now entered the United States. Thank you.
As Women's Liaison Officer, my role is to attend these meetings as well and do a women's report. Part of that is our Recruit and Protect campaign, which is trying to get as many women into the industry as possible and then looking after them when they're there. And that means making sure that we eliminate all forms of harassment, bullying and violence in the workplace. What we want to do is get as many women into the union as we can. We want women in every worksite and we want them to be protected when they're there. We want safe workplaces and we want them free of harassment, bullying and violence. Now that's not just for the women, that's for the guys too, of course. We need to make sure that places are friendly to having females working there. It's a traditional male-dominated industry and it's a hard gig. I was one of the first women at Patrick's at Port Botany 10 years ago, and the first couple of months were hell. And I've got to say it because those guys just didn't know how to work with women, you know, didn't understand having a woman alongside them in the workplace.
Women's rights is everybody's rights. When I think of myself in the workforce, I don't think myself as a woman. I think myself as an equal, and that's all I want to be. I don't want to stand out as anything significant. I just want to be one of.
The majority of our membership, of course, is men. We're a male-dominated industry, and we probably always will be. We've only got 5% women, so it's really important that we do protect the 5% that we've got and work towards increasing that and working together into the future.
I was enormously proud to be able to participate in the 2009 MUA Youth Conference in Brisbane. It gave me an opportunity to engage with those youth and to get them involved and invite them to become involved in all of our campaigns. Those campaigns across the borders of the Maritime Union of Australia and the International Transport Workers Union. The Flag of Convenience campaign, education campaigns, women's campaigns, and of course the all-important youth campaign.
Here we accept now that after many years of amalgamation, forged together by fights like the Patrick's dispute, that we are one, and we don't see any difference between us. But there are plenty of unions around the world that are purely dockers unions, purely seafarers unions, and they suffer, in my opinion, very badly from it. Any ship coming to Australia on an FOC flag needs to sign an ITF agreement. We police that and we fight every day of the week, and you've seen me on plenty of wharves and around the place trying to get your support, and it's been gladly given every single time, to hold ships up and to confront and to confuse the ship owners to make sure that they sign these agreements. But then there are other things, and the unions do this, and I'm sure you'll hear plenty about this over the next few days, and that's the attack on the demise of the Australian shipping industry under 12 years of Howard. So while we get the FOC cruise up, we're trying to get taxation breaks for national seafarers, we're trying a whole raft of other legislative changes to narrow that gap again. So some of the weapons that we've formed in the FOC POC campaign, and I use weapons advisedly, are the union power of the MUA first and foremost. And with that comes internationalism, our ability to act cooperatively. And if you have a look at these books later on down the track, there's a bundle of them at the back, you can see that at any given time there are people waiting around every country in the world, 140 countries, 600 unions to support what we're doing. And we stay here ready to support what they're doing too. So the network is very strong.
Some of the things like the Flag of Convenience ships give the ability and the capacity for our members to become involved. One, to help their union grow and to be strong and to be internationally recognisable. And two, to help those that can't help themselves. They are international seafarers on Flag of Convenience ships. They're experiencing some of the worst that the worst employers in the world can dish up.
We were caught in between by the two fights of the big company, and we are just poor people who are working for them. And out of that, we experienced bad thing, having a delay in our salary. Some of them even got worse because other crew members, they're having the children sent to school, but they have nothing. So that is why we are very much thankful that the ITF came here to our rescue.
Yeah, you see blokes come into port and you don't actually understand that they're you know, as they said, getting paid in fish heads to eat, and it's just shocking. And whatever we can do to support them and help them, I think is great. I didn't actually understand what they are involved with the ITF, and that the union is such a global conglomerate of people working together against all similar causes around the world, which I've taken away, and I've already gotten quite a few discussions with people that I've met out, and share my views of my knowledge that I've gathered from this conference.
MOJO stands for Miscarriage of Justice Organisation, and we've got Jerry Conlon from the Guildford 4 and Paddy Hill from the Birmingham 6, and I've got to say, we get to hear a lot of speakers, and we talking is part of the education process as much as it is the communication process. And once in a blue moon, you come across a presentation that is absolutely staggering.
In the wake of the Guildford pub bombing deaths, the government has responded with emergency legislation and increased police powers of search and arrest.
Get him up! I have a right to speak to my son. You are in trouble, Conlon. What are you charging me with? The murders of 5 people. You're out of your mind! I taught you how to make the bomb, Jerry. I didn't do this. What are you trying to do to me? Stop, what are you doing in here? Conspiracy to murder.
Their arrest was only the beginning. My name's Giuseppe Connor. I'm an innocent man, so's my son. Of a remarkable journey.
All of the defendants claim that they were subjected to physical and mental abuse while under police custody.
We're never harmed in any way.
How do you find the defendants?
Guilty as charged. From the hands of a government.
This is your home for the rest of your life.
Who knew they were innocent.
What are we going to do now?
Nothing. To the heart of a lawyer.
This conspiracy of silence has kept my client behind bars for 14 years.
Determined to prove it.
They're as guilty as sin.
In the name of justice. In the name of truth. In the name of love. In the name of the Father.
The name of the Father is a sanitized version of what happened. This would be too brutal. This would be right up with what dictators do around the world to working class people, what they did to us. But in 1980, the 23rd of January, my father died. And I seen him 5 days previous on the Friday night. They took me from Wormwood Scrubs prison to see him, handcuffed. And there were policemen there on the roof, marksmen on the roof, policemen in the corridors with machine guns, special branch men. Anyway, I got up to the room, the little side ward he's in, and he was so emancipated, he looked like a matchstick with drips running in and out of his arms and an oxygen mask. And when I went in, I started to cry. It's my father. And he pulled the mask off and he said, "Son, don't be worrying." I said, "You're going to be all right." And he said, "No, I'm not going to be all right, I'm going to die." He said, "But don't worry." He says, "It takes this. It takes something of this magnitude. It takes me to die in order to break this case." But you remember one thing. They put us in the back door. When your time comes, you go out the front door and you tell the world what they did to us.
I have never, ever in my life been asked a question about the Birmingham pub bombings. When I heard about the Birmingham pub bombings, it was on a boat, same boat, funny enough, that took me away from Belfast, the Duke of Lancaster. That was the boat I was getting back that night. And that's when we heard about them. And I went to a police station in Morecambe of my own free will to be eliminated from their inquiries. But someone made a decision that we were going to go to jail. In fact, the police told us right from the very start, Sergeant Bennett told me right from the very start, quote, "We know you didn't do the bombings. We don't give a fuck who done the bombings. We've got you. That's good enough for us. It keeps the public off our gaffers' back and our gaffers off ours." He went on to tell me that they had got orders, and it wasn't them, the West Midlands Serious Crime Squad, that picked on us. He told us that we'd been selected by people, and he pointed at the ceiling, people at the highest level of government. And he showed me a bit of paper and he said, "Look at that, there's our orders." And their orders were that they were to get confessions and convictions, and that they were to use any means that they had to obtain them. And they were not to worry because they were covered all the way to the top. And that is exactly what did happen. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of miscarriage of justice to the MUA, thanks a million. The last thing I have to say is to each and every one of you for being here today. You've been a wonderful audience. Thanks for coming and listening to us, and I hope we haven't bored you.
When he spoke, everyone listened. You know, the whole room sat still and made eye contact, and no one was game to get up and go to the toilet even. You know, he was that good. And that's the calibre of where our union's been, and they're still leading the way at 82 years old.
He needed help with some water to carry on, and yet he was so passionate about the union movement and our union.
As far as getting up and speaking is concerned, not everybody can get up in front of a crowd and speak, but if you want to train yourself, practice at home. Don't say too much for a start. But whether you're a good speaker or just a mediocre speaker, or you don't speak at all, that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is loyalty. And I don't mean blind loyalty where you just keep on agreeing. And if ever you've got an opinion, always express it.
They saw Gordon speak, and they all learnt so much from that experience and want to get that own experience in their own branches.
Sometimes when you think the shy idea might be a silly idea, it turns out to be the best idea. So never be afraid to say what you think. I can remember more than one occasion down on the job at Smoko, where blokes have said to fellas, "You had your chance to say that at the stop work meeting this morning. Why didn't you say it then?" I said, "Now wait a minute. Not everybody can get up in front of 300 or 400 people. And does it matter? Some people can say what they think over a cup of tea, like this man's saying now. So let him say it, and let us take into our minds what he does say." So that's the main thing. The slogan of this conference is "Remember the past, own the future." Now, it will depend on you young people like you whether or not we own, if not the entire future, a decent slice of the future. Your activities and your interest will decide their fate for the future. And let me say this, if this room full of people here was full of bank owners, oil barons, coal owners, and capitalist class in general, and the end of the world come and you were the only ones left, how would you build a new world? You would build it the same, full of greed and hatred, selfishness, exploitation. Right, well, let's reverse it. If the end of the world came and you people as you are here now were the only ones left, how would you build a new world? I know how you'd build it. You'd build it with fairness and justice, where men, women and children all had a fair go in life as a result of the profits made from the banks and the oil barons and so forth, was not used for capitalist profits but was used for the welfare of the entire people, handled and managed by the wonderful working class. And that's, you just think about that. If the world ended and you people were the only ones left, how would you build a new world? I leave you with that thought. But in final conclusion, I just want to say this, that I don't know whether you back the winner of the Melbourne Cup or not, but I can give you a real good bet for the future. And you've heard about it before. The MUA here to stay, and I thank you.
The motto of the conference was know the past, own the future. And I think, it really goes hand in hand. The youth need to
have the patience and the respect to learn the history of the union, know where we come from, know what the battles were, know what the challenges were faced, because it puts them in a greater understanding and a greater position to meet the challenges going forward. So for me now, it's a bit like handing over the baton. We've started it, we've engaged, now we need to give them the ownership of where it needs to go, plus maintain the resources that they require to achieve the objectives that they want to achieve.
One of the boys actually from WA, Tim Dukes, said on the first day he got up and he said, "This is not my job. Somebody else fought for this job, and if I can leave it in as good or better condition, then I've done my duty." And like that really stood out for me.
And it's great to see that MUA is putting on a conference like this to shift young people's political awareness so that they can go back and share that with their friends, their workmates, their families and other youth of Australia.
We've had a few more and it's a lot more well organised, and a lot of the people that we're meeting here are quite involved in the union, and if they're not, they want to be.
The resolution that we put together in our group too was to support Paddy Crumlin to become the president on the ITF in Mexico in 2010. I strongly feel that we want to be involved on that and show our enthusiasm and encouragement and support for Paddy.
It's just amazing meeting people and listening to their different point of views and things, and it's been interesting.
I like Samoan. That was very touching. The struggle that they went through and is just incredible.
Being the MUA is something that's really got me empowered and a more understanding of, I think.
It's nice for me to be able to go back to those members and just say, listen, there's younger members on the wharf and at sea that are carrying on what you started.
Just to educate them that this thing here, it's bigger than just a workplace, and that's what the whole union is about.
They're just eager to get on the job and take something from here and do it, and see the young maritime workers movement grow.
In the last 3 days we have been just amazing. I think the union, in my opinion, is in pretty good stead with committed young people like this.
I'd really like to say a big thank you to everybody, the Queensland branch, Mich-Elle Myers, Mick Doleman, Ian Bray, everybody that's put their time in. They're very, very busy people, and for them to give us 4 days of their time, for me, I just want to say thank you very, very much, because it means a lot.
We have to develop political and industrial campaigns that lock into that reality. There is no security. There is no job security unless we provide it. This union provides it. And this union isn't an organisation somewhere away from your life. It's not a place removed from your life or your place. This union is you. Once we understand that, once I got that message, as a young worker, I never lost it. MUA, here to stay! MUA, here to stay!